me those, yeah, the stuff that I'm using for the other quilt? Thanks. Just set them over here. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the Stash Buster series. My name is Bradie, and it's Friday again, you guys. Can you believe it? How time flies. I'm just shocked that the weekend is here already. Always a good thing, though, isn't it? It's a sign that you've been working hard, that the week just flew by. And that is always a good thing, too. Well, I hope you're all doing well. I hope your weather is nice in your area, wherever you may be watching from. Please leave me a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Welcome, Sandra. Nice to see you here. See you're typing here. People are here from all over the place. That's awesome. So today we are going to be working on the Round the Rail quilt, and you can see the original Round the Rail behind me on display. I forgot to bring it last time, so you guys didn't get a chance to see it, but this is the finished Round the Rail. This one actually is not the original. The original went to the baby brother, Kern, and now this one has gone to Chael. Unfortunately, those two little hoodlums packed up their quilts last summer to go camping, and the quilts never came home. We don't know where they ended up. So, of course, Mama had to fly into action and start making new quilts. And we really liked this line of fabric. They are called Dapper Wovens. They're designed by Luke Haynes, and it was a fabric line from Moda. And it also had, oh, I'm going to grab it real quick. He also did the flat cotton prints, and you can see the top one here is just a bunch of sunglasses. So the Dapper prints were really fun as well, but I used just the wovens. So that's not quite a flannel. It is a brushed cotton, so it's just a thicker thread that makes up the weave of that fabric, and it went really well with flannel. So I decided to do all my background fabric in flannel, and it's just a really nice warm quilt, and the little boys just love dragging them around. Now, one thing that I did on this particular quilt and the brother quilt is I did some personalization along the bottom row. Those instructions are not included with the pattern, but I will have those available at some point in the future. So let me show you that. So way down here at the bottom. And you can see there where I just did up their name with some applique. And we put some fusible web on the back of that. And then I got some little images. And this all came out of a word processing app. So I use Apple products. My word processor is called Pages. These were letters that were just in there as a regular font. I increased the size of each letter until it was a size that I wanted. And the tree and the little axe and saw were also in the word processing as a little image. It was just a black kind of silhouette, so I printed those out too, and they went really well. I was kind of going for a lumberjack theme. Thanks, Al. Those little farmers, when they go camping, they are so drawn to the axe and the hatchet. They think they're little men, and they are ready to chop wood, and they want to build a fire. So I just call them little lumberjacks all the time, and that's why I went with that lumberjack theme. But you could find any image online. There's all kinds of free images available that you could use to personalize your quilts, and it's really easy to do. So sometime in the future, I'll be doing a tutorial along those lines so that you can add a nice personal touch to your quilts as well. Because that's always fun, you know, when there's a new baby in the family. And we have a couple of new babies coming into our family, not via me. Ha, ha, ha. I've had my 10 children. I am done. We've fixed the leak. But there will be a new little niece or nephew ×2 coming into the family here pretty darn quick. So that's what we are going to be working on today. Last time you joined us, we cut out all the strips. First, I did my little lumberjacks. So my youngest is 6 and his brother is 7. So Chael is 7 and Kern is 6. Didn't mean to knock that off there. I'm going to need that in a minute. They do not need to be using axes. No, exactly. So, yeah, I would rather their axes and hatchets were made of fabric, where they are safe and no one gets hurt from those. They're actually really good. They're really smart, and they don't they don't grab those tools, but you know, you, you know, I always feel like it's better to teach a child to do something safely than to teach them to try and avoid it entirely, because we all know that kid is going to at some point try and do it on their own. So why not teach them how to do it safely versus forbidding them from ever touching it, because it's gonna make them more drawn to it than if you had said, sure, go ahead. I'm sure of it. It's the way their little minds work. Oh, I agree, Marianne. If I had had red and black, I probably would have gone with that. But these dappers, this was all I was able to get, was the blues and grays and greens. So I made the best with what I had. All right, guys. Like I said, last time you joined me, I showed you how I was using a jelly roll to do one quilt. And this is for the little mama who's very modern and maybe a bit conservative. So I'm just going to keep it nice and simple with the blacks and whites and grays for her. And we don't know whether she's having a boy or a girl. So I think that will be pretty safe. That doesn't, really say boy or girl. And for the other baby, I wanted to use these cute Bunnies and Cream line that we had in the shop from Penny Rose, which is just under the Riley Blake umbrella. And they are just so sweet. I'm hoping you can see them here in the other camera. They're little bunnies with their mama, and they do baking. And some of the fabrics have actual recipes on them for like cookies and icing for your cookies. And they're just so sweet. And they are going to make a beautiful little baby quilt. So I've paired those with this really pretty winter green fabric, as well as this kind of look like a buttercream yellow. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I tried not to use too much pink, just in case this new little farmer is a boy baby. There's just a little bit in there. Sometimes you cannot avoid it. And there's little flowers and ribbons in there too, but it's not going to harm anybody, is it? Let's be honest here. All right, guys. My giveaway for today is, speaking of bunnies and cream, a 10-inch roll of the bunnies and cream fabric. So this is a strip of each fabric in the full line that is 10 inches wide. It is a beautiful collection that has plenty of fabric to use for any of your projects. So how are you going to win this today, guys? You know it. You're going to share this video. Underneath the video, if you've never done this before, is the options to like, comment, and share. I hope that you'll like this video. I hope you'll leave me a comment, but I definitely want you to share so that you can be entered into the contest to win this beautiful line of fabric. And at the end of today, we will go ahead and announce that winner. So share, share, share so that you can be entered to win. Now, just showing off.
There's a little space here where you can see the ugly.
Lannon's setting the scene. She's romancing the setting. She doesn't want you to see the grubby old floor. Wait till you see our new place, guys. We are probably moving May 1st. We're just waiting to hear back from the leasing company. We have found a beautiful location, and it is currently a flooring business. And the whole place is just gorgeous. And it has a full actual kitchen. For those of you who are local and have been coming to the shop for the past 8 years or so, you're going to be excited because this place has a real genuine kitchen, and you're going to be able to like make coffee in a real kitchen setting. I'm more excited about that than anything. And there's got this big, beautiful island. We often host huge classes. Like we've had, I almost said Judy Garland. It's not Judy Garland. Why can't I think of her name? Judy Madsen. Oh my God, Judy, I'm so sorry. I am just... I'm a flake today. It must be Friday. So we've had Judy Madsen up. We've had Angela Walters up. Karen McTavish, Sue Patton, Claudia File has been here 3 times. We've had guest teachers from all over the place come up and visit with us. And so we may be hosting up to 30 students at one time. Natalia Bonner was here in January. And so we've got this beautiful, huge island now, and there's free clearance on all sides of it. So I'm like already envisioning the big lunches and the layout of food. We always provide lunch for our students, so that is a big, big, important detail to be able to have somewhere to lay out all that food. Hi, Rasan. Good to see you. Yes, Kathy, we're really excited about it. So my question of the day, you guys, is do any of you like to use pre-cuts? And when you purchase your pre-cuts, do you usually purchase coordinating yardage to go with it? I will often pick up a, well, when I first started quilting and I was a little bit more frugal, I would buy like a jelly roll and maybe a meter of a coordinate. Now I'll usually buy like a fat quarter bundle and like 3 coordinate meters to go with it. You know, you got to have the binding. What if you need a border? And sometimes you just need a fill in of this or that here or there. I didn't buy this, guys. This, again, was on my gift card today. I know you're all watching to keep me accountable, but I did not buy this one. It was a freebie. My a nice lady came in back in December, and she was really struggling with making decisions on how to get her first quilt quilted. It was her very first quilt, and she was very specific. She wanted things just so, and I really admire that. So when she came back to pick up the quilt, she had this gift card for me, and she said, I know I didn't treat you very nicely the first time I met you, so here's a little sorry. So I've been holding on to that ever since, and it's come in handy now that I've stopped buying takeout coffee, because that allows me to get a little splurge. All right, how are we doing there? Questions? Anything that I need to address before I get...
She likes the black and gray rolls.
Oh, those are on the website.
Everyone likes pre-cuts.
Yeah, pre-cuts are awesome. They're my favorite. It's probably the reason that I have kept quilting as much as I have, because in my head I call it quilting for dummies. You can't mess this up, right? Like, it's all coordinated. It's all meant to go together. You add some white background fabric or a gray or something like that, and you're set. That's all you need to do. It is super, super simple. So this project is perfect for pre-cuts. Like I said, the other quilt that I'm doing was from a jelly roll. And it was a junior jelly roll, just a little cutie. And that line is called Thicket. So I don't have any more of it in the shop, but it is now a Moda Basic. So if anybody's interested, I can bring that in. It will be around forever now. All right.
She doesn't buy pre-cuts. She enjoys the cutting process.
Ooh, good. That's good, Christine. I'm glad you do, because that cutting process can be quite labor intensive. You know, if you're doing a really intricate quilt with lots of little pieces. I made a quilt that I gave to my dad, and it was designed by Sharon and Devin. They do the Prairie Quilt Militia. You may know them, or Sharon does now. Devin has moved on. But, oh my word, it was a snail's trail, and it was just all these little bits, squares and triangles, and it took me years to make that sucker. But I finished it up. Dad got it for Christmas. Last year, I think. All right, I'm going to stop yapping, and I'm going to get to the sewing now. Are we ready? So this is super simple, you guys. We are literally just creating strip sets, and I've done one ahead of time just to show you what we're aiming for. And what I have done is outfitted my machine with a couple of seam guides. Now, if you're not familiar with a seam guide, it is a ruler that you can adhere to the bed of your sewing machine. It's got a sticky layer on the back, and it is actually a rubberized adhesive. So when this sticky starts to dull and it doesn't work very well anymore, you can actually wash it with a spray cleaner. We recommend Fantastic. So I didn't mention today, I've got Landon behind the scenes here. She's the oldest daughter that works here with us. And she runs the camera and the lights and fixes the scenery so that everything's pretty. And that is who shares your questions with me. So if you've got any comments, please type them, and Landon will share them with me. We'll try to get to them today. Anyways, we have pre-attached these to the bed of the machine, and the one on the right is my seam allowance. So I have set that to be 1/4 inch away from my needle, and I'm just creating a channel with my seam guides so that when I sew my strips, I just feed them through this little channel, and it keeps everything nice and straight for me. I really notice when I'm sewing strips that the strip kind of wavers. What happens is those feed dogs are working hard underneath your needle, and they're moving things around. But because there is 2 tracks of feed dogs, they tend to make the fabric wiggle back and forth. And that means we have to work against that to keep things nice and straight while we're sewing in order to achieve that seam allowance that we're after. So if I create this little channel here on the bed of my machine, it makes the sewing a little bit easier for me. Not that this is difficult sewing, but it makes it just effortless so that I don't necessarily have to be staring constantly to ensure that my seam allowance is going to be straight. All I have to make sure is that my edges of my raw edges of my fabric are lined up to each other. So on Wednesday, we did all our cutting, and we also matched them all up into groups of 3. And what I'm doing is sewing 2 prints on either side of a wintergreen strip. Now, the important thing to pay attention to when we're sewing strips is that we alternate our directions. And we've talked lots about this in the past, but it seems to really be obvious when we're sewing strips. Have you ever sewn strips together and had them kind of hourglass on you, or kind of look like they're trying to take off in another direction? It was really obvious with these. I had full bits of each strip set that I was unable to use, and I always alternated my direction. So even though I was very diligent and paying attention to that, this type of fabric, that brushed cotton, is quite a loose weave, and I think that the distort just happened regardless, probably because of the feed dogs. You know, they're kind of chewing the fabric up underneath there, stretching it a little bit. And so I was glad that I pieced more than I had to, because it allowed me to put aside the pieces that weren't in good shape. You know, there's 2 up front. They're a 15 and a 10. They're not these little guys, but yes, we can show them. Lannon's just going to grab some seam guides there so that I can show them to you, or that she can show them to you. So pretty much what I'm going to do is just put my strips so that they're right sides together. And I'm going to start sewing with my 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, if you're just joining us, we're working on this quilt behind me. It's called Round the Rail. And I called it that because it is simply a rail fence with a border around it. So we're going around the rail. So Landon is just showing you there the seam guides. This is a larger one than I have here on my machine. If I had my extension table on, I could use that 10-inch because it would extend onto the table. She's showing you the acetate layer of plastic that peels off the backside, and I hang on to that so that I can put it back onto my seam guide when it's not in use, and that protects that rubberized adhesive that's on the back. There's also one that's a little bit bigger, and I use that for working on my half square triangles. I put it onto the actual fabric. And we've done some other tutorials on that as well. You can check those out on our Facebook page. Monica Landon says that she'll post a picture of the setup here after the live so that you can see it a little bit better, okay? All right, guys, if you're just joining me, welcome to the Stash Buster series. My name is Bradie. Today we're working on the Round the Rail pattern, which you can see on display behind me. And this pattern is a free download at sparrowquiltco.com. So if you're interested in having this pattern so that you can follow along or maybe make it in the future, just visit us there at the website, put your email address in, and we'll send you an email with the pattern attached. We have all the prior videos that we've done in the Stash Buster series here on our Facebook page, also on our YouTube channel, and on the Stash Busters page of the website. So you can see all the prior quilts that we've made since January and any of the other tutorial type videos that we've done. If you choose to visit us on YouTube, please look for us under the name of Sparrow Studios. That's our old business name, and we just haven't had a chance to change it yet, or keep forgetting. And there I also do some short and sweet block tutorials. Those ones are called the Quilt Block Studio, and we just do specifically the block and how you can make it. But this is kind of nice because it allows you to see the entire project.
The first line on the sewing machine, 1/4 seam allowance.
The first one on this machine here, the question is the first line on a sewing machine the 1/4 inch seam allowance? And no, I would say, because on mine the first line is 3/8, so that's a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch. The 1/4 inch is still in the feed dogs. So if you don't have seam guides or 1/4 inch presser foot, I really do recommend at least having a 1/4 inch presser foot. You can use masking tape, and you're just going to measure a 1/4 inch to the right of your needle, and that will be where you're going to line your fabric up when you do your sewing, at least for quilting. So it's really important to keep the raw edges of our fabric lined up nicely so that you get the accurate results you're after. These blocks are not difficult, but the more precise your sewing is, as usual, the more precise your finished project is going to be, right? And I didn't hold my tails there, guys, so the thread kind of pulled funny on me. Forgot to follow my own rules. So like I said, I'm just sewing down the one side, and then I'll add this strip, and we'll sew in the opposite direction next. And these channels that I've created with my seam guides, just trap those strips right in between, and you can see I'm just using a single finger. Normally I've got my whole hand kind of clamped down on my fabric to hold everything together, but these channels make it quite effortless. All right, so don't forget to share the video, guys, so that you can be entered to win the draw for the free Bunnies and Cream fabric bundle. And that's the fabric that I'm using today. Aww. Bonnie, that's such a good idea. Our little Sophie is just turned 10. Oh no, she's 10 and a half now. Geez, holy moly. And she is the nosiest little thing ever. We'll bring her into the shop sometimes and she sews, just looking all over the place. So having that seam guide there makes a big difference for her. And she did a full quilt out of jelly rolls, and it turned out awesome. She even long-armed it herself. So you may have noticed that we're back at the shop again today. I just really like the energy here. It is, well, the house is nice, but it's so quiet, and it's a little bit boring. So I'm glad we're kind of back at the shop, even though it's a bit louder and there's a lot more distractions. But it's nice to be here amongst all the quilty stuff. So I hope you don't mind the change in scenery. All right, so this was our first. Now this time, I started at that end and sewed all the way down to here. Now this time, I'm going to line up this edge first, and I'm going to turn the whole strip set around, and I'm going to sew down this way. And that way I will get nice straight strip sets and not have to worry about any bowing or twisting. Oh, Barbara, yes. Depending on what type of machine you have, look through your user manual. You might be able to set your machine to keep that needle setting, to make it the standard. Yeah, for years I struggled with my Janome having to remember, just like you, to set it that way every time I turned it on, and my stitch length too, because I usually sew at 2.2 versus 2.5. I like the stitches smaller. And then I took my machine in for service, and Ron over at Johnson's there said, oh, well, didn't you know that you can program it to hold those settings? And I don't think all machines are capable of that. You'd have to have some sort of computerized element to your machine. So if your machine is just very basic and mechanical, you might not have this luxury. But most machines that are a bit higher end have the ability to program stuff like that in. So look through your manual or ask your service person, and they might be able to help you with that.
That looks like a coffee, Bradie. Paula came in late. And then Gail says, oh, your coffee.
You guys, I have a confession. Look at this.
Those were all within a minute. You took a sip and they're all like, coffee.
Okay, so I'm going to tell the story again. I have quit buying takeout coffee, right? But, and honest, clearly, on Fridays I splurge because a customer gave me a gift card, a $10 gift card. So next week it'll be used up and that's the end of it. So today I got my second coffee on my gift card, and again, it's still free, so I can still put my $11 into my savings account, and I am covered. Not that this coffee costs $11, but before I quit drinking takeout coffee, I was drinking 2 venti vanilla lattes from Starbucks every single day. So that is a grand total of $11 per day. I'm now going into I just finished up the 3rd week of no takeout coffee with my Friday morning splurges. So Matt stepped out this morning and texted and said, I'm going to buy you a coffee. And I was about to write back, no, it's okay. And he said, don't worry, I'll use my money, not yours. So I'm a little bit spoiled today.
Carolyn says she's already learned something new, sewing the strips in opposite directions.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that you learned something. Carolyn, you said?
Pat says, why don't more beginning quilter instructors teach you alternating directions? Paul says he can't get away with anything.
It's true. You got too many people watching me, keeping me accountable. But that's a good thing. You know what? And that's why I told you guys, because honestly, you have to have something that keeps you on track. Otherwise, I could just secretly off camera drink coffee and none of you would ever know. So that's why I'm being honest and just telling you all about it. I don't know why more people don't teach that. Maybe they don't even know that. I'm not sure how I came upon that knowledge. It was not from my original quilting class that I took in the beginning, because I can remember we went out and bought a bunch of batiks one time and we started making some sort of jelly roll quilt, and it was just like wonk. It was totally a mess. And somewhere in our travels, somewhere along the way, we learned about the alternating directions. So I do it with everything now. Even the rows of blocks, I'll go up one and down the next. That was an up one and down the next. Mm-hmm.
Linda has an off-topic question.
Okay.
When making 1/4 square triangles, do you cut the first seam before making the second?
If I understand you correctly, Linda? Okay, so we're going off topic here for just a moment for a question. If you have sewn a square and it's got a diagonal seam through it, and it's a half square triangle, so 2 separate fabrics, a triangle of each, and then you go to make it a second time, what I would do is put I would have 2 of those. I wish I had this. 2 of them, and I would face them together, and I would sew up either side and then slice it up the center. So yes, you would have to cut across that seam. I hope that makes sense. I wish I had something to demonstrate to you, but yes, I think you're going to have to cut that original seam. I don't cut it into 2 triangles. I put it face to face with another square, mark a diagonal line, stitch on either side, and then cut that apart. And then you will end up. Right. I don't like sewing with bias edges. If I can avoid it, I will. So that's why I do my half square triangles in that way. I hope that helps you. I think I know what you're asking, and I hope you understood my answer. It's hard without some sort of prop to demonstrate, but that's a great question. Maybe we should do a tutorial on a 1/4 square triangle. Good, okay. So here you can see that my channel is a little overpowered, but it's just by that first piece that I've sewn. My bottom strip is right in that channel, and it's just feeding it along pretty much effortlessly. All right, my question of the day was, do you like to use pre-cuts? And when you buy them, do you usually purchase some coordinating fabric? That's what I usually do. At home, I've got all these, jelly rolls with a matching meter, or a fat quarter bundle with a couple of matching meters. I always like to buy a little bit of a coordinate to make sure that I've got something for the binding, or if I need a border or whatever. And I'm really a fan of Moda, so I find a lot of their fabric lines overlap, I can use them with other mode of fabric lines. So they're pretty versatile in that way. And don't forget to share, guys. I am really excited to be giving away this sweet little bundle of bunnies and cream fabric. That is a Penny Rose fabric line. And Penny Rose belongs to Riley Blake. So I could just call it Riley Blake, but best to give all the info you possibly can so people can find it. All right, wasn't that easy? So simple. Super duper simple. And today I was trying to find some thread that I could use, and I had nothing neutral, so I'm using a spool of yellow. But there's nothing wrong with that because it'll work fine with these fabrics. I've got lots of yellow, and no one sees it on the inside anyways. It doesn't even matter. That is an old spool of Wonderfill that I'm just trying to use up. My preference is usually to use Aurifil, but that's all at home right now. I got to bring in some more for the shop. So there you can see we've done our first strip set. Pretty easy, hey guys? Super duper simple. Anybody can do this quilt. In fact, a lot of beginners do a rail fence for their very first quilt. And the rail fence is just this center square, those 3 rails. Now, if you want to make this quilt, but you don't have a lot of strips, you can make this out of scraps. All you have to do is cut out all your little rails individually. It doesn't have to all be strips. So you can use up scraps in this quilt and make it super scrappy, and it's going to look awesome. Then if you just use 2 fabrics to do your round, each rail, the border of each rail, that will give it some distinction, you know, like a strong gray and a white, or a black and a white, or maybe you're a bit more adventurous than me and you're going to do purple and green. I don't know. It's up to you. Be wild and crazy because it's your quilt and you can do what you want with it. To refold your fabric. When you're cutting, Connie, is that what you're talking about? Mm-hmm. So when I was first learning to quilt, my instructor taught me to cut off a strip that was as wide as your ruler, and that piece was square. And then once you finished cutting that all up, then you're going to cut off another piece, and then you would subcut that into your strips, because you know each of those initial segments of fabric is going to be square. And it's a bit more time consuming. I'm lazy. I just chop straight off the bolt, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. I don't have a lot of time, so I get stuff done. But I do agree with things having to be square. It's going to make them turn out better. I do want you guys to put your best effort in. This fabric's not cheap. They're not giving it away. Well, I am, if you share this video. But it, you always want to put your best effort into your quilts, because it's usually going to be given to somebody else, or it's a gift, or whatever. You want to put your best work forward at all times. That said, I'm not going to kill myself trying to make it perfect. Landon did the quilting on the other little round the rail quilts. Do you guys want to see them? I think you're all nodding your heads yes, so I'm going to show you. Oh, this is my pressed one, and we'll chop that up in just a moment. But first I'm going to show you the quilts, okay? So first I'm going to take this big guy down, my little lumberjack round the rail, and then you can see behind it the quilt that Landon did. Now this was the 3rd one you quilted out? Yeah. So we have 3 almost identical quilts. Last summer I had Jay, and it's Jay's birthday today, everybody. So tell Jay happy birthday. Jay is our oldest son's girlfriend, and she is our solutions manager around here. So you might talk to her on the phone if you ever call in. Anyways, last summer Jay pieced all these middle sections, and then it got put away, and the shop got crazy busy, and she didn't get a chance to come back to it. So we gave it to Darcy a couple of weeks ago and asked her to make this into a finished quilt. Well, Darcy texts me and she's like, this quilt is massive. So I said, okay, we'll make a couple smaller ones then. And she says, I've got enough to make 3 twin size. 3. Gotcha. I wasn't supposed to stand up today, guys. So we ended up with 3 of these twin size round the rail quilts. So this is the 3rd one that landed quilted. And you can see she did this really cute kind of flower design with a wiggly line through the center. I really like the way this one turned out. I'm a bit more of a fan of like custom quilting typically. But this was the first one she did. And this one, what did this one take you, Elle? About 8 minutes? So this one you can see she did just ribbon candy. This nice, big, swoopy quilting. And that one will be nice and cuddly because it's got such a nice, big quilting design. It'll make it easy to wrap around yourself. Well, not you, but us. Maybe we'll give away one of these quilts next week. But it's not coming bound. Just kidding. Well, I'm not binding it. I love you all, but I'm not binding a quilt for you. And this last one, she did a freehand, I almost said flower, but it's leaf. Freehand leafy design. And a different color on all? Nice.
That one's pink. That one's yellow. First one's separate.
Nice. So she switched it up on all 3. They all have this really soft green flannel backing. And we've got tons of wide backs on the website. So if you're searching for just the right wide back, check that out at sparrowquiltco.com. Hopefully you can find something there. But we have got tons of different wide backs. So I just wanted to show you all how, although the quilts are identical in piecing and color, the quilting makes a big difference in the final product. So I hope you don't mind my little trunk show there. What do you think? I seem to have a surplus of quilts. Would any of you want to win a quilt? One of these pretties? Let me know. Maybe we'll do that as a giveaway next week. All right. So let's cut this strip set into squares now. I'm going to set all these little babies aside. Now, hopefully you've been watching all along, but if you're just joining us, then welcome to the Sparrow Quilt Company Stash Busters series. Today we're working on the quilt that you see on display behind me here. It's called Round the Rail, and that is a free pattern that you can get at the website, sparrowquiltco.com. You're just going to click on the picture of the quilt at the top of the first page. It'll take you to a new page where you can enter your email address, and then you will get the email with the pattern attached. Now, when I was pressing my strip sets, I pressed everything to the inside, to the middle strip. And it really doesn't matter. There's not any matching up of seams in this quilt. At the intersections when we put the whole thing together, yes, we do need to match those seams, but there's no benefit to pressing it one way or another because it all just goes together nicely. But I do always recommend pressing your strip sets before you cut them because they're just not going to lay out very nicely. And I'll just show you comparatively. You know, if I was trying to cut this one that I've just sewn, I'm going to be fighting with that to get it to lay nice. Whereas you can see this one is going to be a breeze to cut up. So press it. It's worth the time to do all your pressing and make sure that things come out nice and flat and accurate. Now, the question of today was, do you like to use pre-cuts? And when you buy them, do you usually buy any coordinating fabrics to go with them? And my giveaway today is this pretty little 10-inch roll of the bunnies and cream fabric that I'm using. So make sure you share this video so that you can qualify for that prize, okay? Now today I am using my blue squaring ruler. And Sheila's been working on something, so she's got a funny little template taped on the back there. I didn't want to take it off in case she still needed it. But this is a True Blue Glow Edge squaring ruler, and I use these all the time. I forgot to put slip stop on the back of this one. I've drank 8 coffees this morning, you guys. Double fisting these coffees today. Yes, I probably am. I'll try and slow it down. No. It's part of the fruit flyism. It's just a thing. That's funny. So anyways, my True Blue squaring ruler, I'm using an 8-inch one today because my strip sets are 6.5 inches wide. So I'm going to be cutting them up in 6.5 inch wide increments. Of course, I am going to cut off that first little bit of the strip because it's selvage and I don't want the selvage in the quilt. So that's going to be the first cut I make, is just to remove that initial part of the strip set. And I always line up my strip set using the cutting lines on my mat. I want it to be as square as possible, and not just square on the fabric, but when I look at the quilt later, I want these lines to be square. I don't want them to be a little bit wonky, so I'm always checking that while I'm cutting as well. So I think if I cut about here, I should be okay. So I'm just going to zip down the side there and take off that beginning of the strip set. And like I said, I'm always checking the horizontal lines through my ruler to make sure that my seams are square before I make any cuts. All right. Now, because my ruler is bigger than the size I'm cutting, I need to pay close attention. I'm not just cutting squares that are the width of my ruler. I'm going to be leaving 1.5 inches off to the side. So if you want to make your job a little bit easier, what you can do is place a bit of masking tape down that line so that you're not constantly questioning yourself whether or not you're accurate. If you've just got a line of tape there, then you know right away, as soon as the edge is lined up to that tape, you're good to go. Yeah, Landon's saying, especially when it's so repetitive, you know, you just want to be able to. What? What size are you cutting? 6.5. Landon's like, why aren't you using the 6-inch ruler? Because I'm cutting 6.5. Yeah, I got to go up a size. I know, I originally went looking for the 6-inch square ruler. And I was like, no.
How long are your strips altogether?
So these strips were the width of fabric. Oh, this way they are 6.5 inches wide. Yep. They were each 2.5 to start. Yep. I like that, Nisi. There's monkeys jumping on the bed. Hi, guys. All right, so this is my 6.5 inch line over here, and I have looked along the bottom here. This is nice and square. This is nice and square. This lands at a funny spot, but I can see it looks fairly square. Top edge, we're good. So I'm ready to go ahead and make that chop on this right-hand side. Oh, it's shifted. Everything's good. I'm not going to say no to grip. So these rulers come with this stuff called slip stop, and it's literally sandpaper with a sticker on the back. And I'll cut it up into little bits and I'll put it on the ruler so that it doesn't move, because you guys probably saw that just as I went to make the cut, it scooted off to the side And if you look carefully here, I don't know if you can see it. I'm lined up right here, 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 and then at the edge it just kicks a tiny, tiny little bit. I'm going to square that. Oh, it's okay, honey. It's okay. I'll live. It probably won't be very effective if you peel it off. Do you see that little hair? I'm going to trim it off just because it'll only take a second. But that's the same stuff that comes on our strip cutting rulers, that slip stop. And I, as you can see, cannot live without it. It is just so helpful in keeping us lined up and on track. All right, so again, I'm going to line up my 6.5 inch there, and it's nice and square now because I trimmed it. I'm good here. I'm good there. Good along the top. So I'm going to place my pinky here this time, and that should stop the ruler from making that sway. And I say should because I'm an optimist. There we go. Good. That was a successful cut. So those are my cute little blocks. You see how simple this quilt is, guys? You could have this one together in no time flat. Now the quilts you see on display are approximately a twin size, but because I'm making baby quilts, I'm only going 5 blocks across and probably 4 or 5 rows down. I haven't decided yet. I always liked to wrap my babies up, bundle them, and so I always like to give a quilt that's big enough that Mama can do that. Not that I'm telling you how to parent, but wrap your babies up. They like it better. Because I've had 1 or 2 babies. Okay, maybe 10. All right, so I'm lined up along the line on my cutting mat, and that is going to ensure that I start with kind of a square surface. And we're just going to keep cutting up these strip sets until we have them all measuring 6.5 inch squares. My hair's not very pretty from that angle, is it? When I first started wearing my hair like this, I went to the school one day. I used to have long, long curly hair. And I went to the school one day to pick up my kids. And one of their little friends said, "Ziggy, is that your mom?" And he's like, "Yeah." She says, "She looks like a movie star." I'll never forget that. The best day of my little life. Maybe he meant like a punk rock star or something. You just don't see a lot of mothers with mohawks, I guess. Faux hawks. All right, so this is the last one I'm going to get out of this strip set. I should have gotten 6 in total. I got 3 there, 2 here, 1 more. And so then if you want, you can also cut a few more strips off the end here. You could probably get a couple of 1.5s or at least 1 2.5, maybe a 3, and then you could make those into a pillow or something else kind of patchworky that could go along with your quilt, but you're going to have a good little chunk there left over that you can use for something else. And I mean, I'm not very good at using stuff up like that, but it's already patchwork, so you could certainly use it for something pretty, that's for sure. All right, remember, as always, if you have any questions, please leave them there on the comment feed. And hopefully you've been watching all along, but if not, we are working on this round the rail quilt that you see on display behind me here. And we're just piecing together strip sets today. Put that off to the side. So my next strip set has got these sweet little strawberries. And we're just going to sew these together.
Because Bradie, you have trouble getting a quarter inch accurate and starting to out. So like under the pressure point.
Do I have trouble getting a 1/4 inch seam allowance when
The beginning part is the beginning part of your quarter inch accurate because you start your fabric under the foot.
No, because I've got the seam guide on my machine. Maxine, I think the question was, do I have trouble with the 1/4 inch at the beginning? And no, I've got these seam guides that are attached onto my machine, so it keeps my fabric in place. And I don't usually have any trouble with it, no.
And hopefully you could use the leftovers for the binding.
Mm. Yes, they could. Piano keys border, I like that idea. Pieced binding, yes, that would be really pretty. Yeah, yeah. Because the seams are square, normally in our binding we miter them so it's on an angle and that disperses the seam allowance over a greater width. Here it would be bulky, but it would certainly work and it would be very pretty. Hi to Joanne.
Bye to Joanne.
Bye, Joanne. Bye, Joanne. Have a good day. And that's okay. If you can't watch these videos live, you know, they just get recorded as we stream it, and then we add them to the Facebook page, or we add them to the YouTube channel, and we add them to the website. So if you're not able to catch it live, don't worry. You can get it later. It will always be there for you. And now if you're looking for some of the prior patterns, unfortunately, only the pattern that we're currently live working on is the one that's free, but the other patterns get added to the website, so you can purchase them there if you've missed the free option. All right, hold those tails while I start, because we saw what happened last time. Pulled in and got all tangled up. Now, don't forget, guys, that we've got the long arm quilting promotion on right now. If you're interested in having your quilts finished, we will take 3 of your quilts in, and when you send us 3, you can save 20%. So that's a fairly good savings. Look at my pinky out there. What's it doing? It's like it thinks it's having high tea or something. Here. It's so many coffees, that second one is cold. But thanks to my Maddie, who went and got that one for me. So simple sewing, you guys. You're just putting together strip sets. We're going to sew up one side and down the other. And hopefully if you don't learn anything else, hopefully that is new to you and that will help you keep things nice and square and accurate when you are sewing. And I was telling you guys earlier, if you don't have a lot of yardage and you still want to make this quilt, you can just cut your little strips. You would cut them at 2.5 by 6.5, and then you would just make each strip set individually instead of making these big long strip sets and then chopping them into smaller pieces. You could make this scrappy, 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 and it will look fabulous. I promise. The first one I didn't have the round the rail. So I guess I lied a little bit earlier. I was saying that chail and currants were the first one, but prior to that I did another one that didn't have the border around the block. So it was just my rail fences alternating direction, and I did it in an old, really brightly colored Moda line, and That quilt I think Tylee has over at Spearman's house. I want to get that one back because I like that one.
That's if she gets so involved watching that her coffee gets cold.
Oh, Beth, drink your coffee, girl. Got to keep that energy up so you can do some sewing later.
Someone said to reduce the bulk in those end scrappy pieces, but it's open.
Good idea. So if you want to use those leftover bits for your binding, press your seams open. That would reduce the bulk for sure. Because right now, all the bulk is pointing to the center, and it's quite thick there. So when you're sewing that onto a quilt, plus it's folded in half, you know, that's a significant amount of thickness. If you were to press the seams open, it would reduce your bulk for sure. And the binding is folded over onto itself, so if those seams were open, everything would still be secure.
Gail says, can you add the border top and bottom now as you go? Maybe you can skip a 5.
Yes, smarty pants. Gail? Yes, we could have absolutely done that if I had the foresight to think of it. Like I was just saying, the original plan was to just alternate the blocks, and I'll try and lay them out here so you can see them. The original plan was just this. Still very pretty and, you know, would work absolutely fine. That was the original quilt that I was just talking about that daughter number 2 has at the boyfriend's house. So when I put all these together, when I put Kern's quilt together, there just wasn't enough distinction. And I wanted it to be a bit bigger than what I currently had. So that's why I added that round the rail outer border. But yes, smarty pants, you could absolutely add your border at this point and sew together 5 strip sets. So what I would do in this case is sew together my strip sets like this. And then these I would still cut in 6.5-inch wide increments. And then I would come and add border around again, and that would create my finished block. So that is absolutely a shortcut way to do this, and it would make things a little bit faster. It isn't how I wrote the pattern, unfortunately, so I'm going to piece it the way I described the pattern. But if you are experienced enough to make that realization, of course, go ahead and do that. It'll be faster. All right. I'm going to give you guys one more chance to share the video to enter to win the Bunnies and Cream 10-inch roll. That is a 1/4 meter of fabric, 20 different fabrics, plenty of fabric in order to make your own round the rail quilt, or make whatever you want with it because it would be your fabric, so you decide. I have no preference as to what you do with it. But you're just going to share this video so that you can qualify to win. Oh, I meant to say this first. So this first 2 strips we sewed together from that side down to here. This next strip that I'm attaching, I'm going to start at this side and go that direction. And just a quick reminder about my seam guides that I'm using here. Landon showed them to you earlier in the video. They are a ruler with an adhesive backing that attaches to the bed of my machine. The one on the right is watching my seam allowance. It's keeping me on track for that. And the second one on the left here is keeping my strips nice and square for me so that my sewing is practically effortless. These are also great tools for a beginner who's just learning. It's not always easy to keep that seam allowance accurate, so I really do highly recommend these for new sewists, or if you're teaching a wee one to sew. These are a good solution for accuracy. And I stop every couple of inches, make sure that things are lined up properly.
Evan says by sewing the borders on after the blocks are made, more variety is achieved in blocks. You won't have 6 blocks that are exactly the same.
Oh, that is a good point too. More variety by adding the blocks later. Yep. I didn't in this one, but in the one that I showed that belongs to Chail, I had several different gray borders. I didn't just use one fabric. I had several grays that I worked in. So you're right, you would get a lot more variety. And you would get a lot more variety too if you pre-cut all your pieces to 2.5 by 6.5. But then it feels like you're doing more sewing. You're actually sewing the same amount, but it just feels like you're doing more sewing because you have to match up. Hey? More pauses, yeah, exactly. You have to stop and match up more fabrics. Alrighty, my darlings, because I told you we are moving, we're starting to put a little bit of the fabric on sale. So each day I've been adding a new fat quarter bundle. Yesterday was cotton and steel. We've got those fat quarters listed at $3.50 per piece when you buy the full bundle. Today I am featuring a line called Summer, because we all need a little bit of summer in our lives at this point. And again, $3.50 per fat quarter. That's down from $5 per fat quarter. So if you're looking for some nice, bright, cheery fabrics, it's pretty much all we carry here. Check out the website. Loads of fabric bundles there, lots of yardage, and lots of wide backs too, guys. We got so much stuff to move. The less fabric we have to take, the better. And of course, as always, if you've got quilts you want finished with long arm quilting services, feel free to check out that option on our website as well. We're happy to help you finish your quilts. And we are very proud of the fact that we do not discriminate. We're not worried about your skill level or how accurate your quilting is done. We quilt all quilts, and we love them all equally. But you can save 20% if you send us 3 or more quilts. All right, one more strip set down. I just love how well that winter green matches these bunnies. It's just the perfect accompaniment. All right, should be able to get at least one more done. I'm going to do a different one with more variety. I love these little bunnies with their mama. Let's see. What's in here? Ooh, gingham. Let's do that one. Let's do the pink gingham. Oh, so indecisive today. Now, I have made a point of keeping my green strip in the middle, but you know what? It doesn't matter. If the fabric beside it is too matchy-matchy and you want to mix it up a little bit, go ahead. You are allowed to do whatever you want. Remember, it's your quilt. And the best thing about baby quilts is babies don't judge. They just want to be warm. I think that starting with a baby quilt is really a good place for a beginner because it's an attainable size. I know so many beginners that started with a project that was so huge, it was just hard to get to the end of it. And then it's hard to quilt it on your domestic machine, and it's hard to bind, and just the size itself becomes a hindrance. So I really do encourage beginners to start small. Start with something that you can easily achieve. Finish quickly and easily, and just build your confidence. This quilt that I'll be doing in the black and whites, I'm going to be bringing in some fusible applique. I'm not going to make these ones myself. I'm going to bring them in from the applique elements line. We've got tons of applique. It's pre-fused and pre-cut. It's all listed there on the website. So you can check those out there. If you want to personalize a quilt, like the one I showed you earlier, I just added an extra strip of white at the bottom and I appliqued my little man's name on there and some neat little images. You can do that too with any quilt. And those applique elements that you'll find on the website there make it immediate and so easy. You literally just peel the paper off the back, lay them where you want them, and press them in place. And then you could stitch over them just to make sure that they stay there. Baby quilts get washed a lot, so I would recommend that. And then you've added a touch of personalization and did you guys get dizzy there? But that's a nice way to make that baby quilt a little something extra special. Maybe you could put baby's name, baby's weight, or something like that. Because I don't know if these babies are boys or girls. I might just put baby and then their last name, or baby 2018, or something like that. We'll see. All right, almost done this one, guys. Here we go. We're in the home stretch. Doo, doo, doo. There we are. Cindy uses Minky backing for Minky for backing baby quilts. Nice choice, Cindy. Oh, yes. Not a lot of Minky. I love Fireside. This one that I showed you earlier has Fireside on the back. So does the Brother quilt. And it just makes the quilt so significant. This one has flannel on the back, so it's got more body to it. But sometimes I find that quilts just feel so thin because they just got a flat cotton backing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I like a quilt that feels significant, that's got some weight to it. It makes me feel warmer when I'm under it. And there's nothing when you're not feeling well like a quilt that's heavy. It just kind of holds you down and makes you get better quicker. Yes? Heather, the price for machine quilting is 2.5 cents per square inch. For the sake of easy math, I always say a quilt that's 100 by 100 will cost you $2.50, and that is Canadian. I know a lot of you are watching from elsewhere in the world or in the States, so your dollar is stronger here, which means you're getting an even better price than that. All right, so this one, I started at that end and I sewed this way. This strip I'm going to add, and I'm going to start at this end and go that way. And that is going to keep my strip sets nice and straight. Have you ever had a strip set that went, woo? I have lots. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So at the top of the website, you will see a heading that is fabric and pre-cuts, and then underneath there, there's like fabric collections, and then at the bottom of that one is fabric bundles, and that's where I put all the bundled, but you can also find fabric by the meter there as well. And for those of you that are watching from the States, a meter is 3 inches bigger than a yard. A yard is 36 inches, a meter is 39. So you're actually getting a little bit more when you purchase fabric in Canada. So our fat quarters are bigger also as a result of that. Okay. All right, Miss, do you want to choose a winner for us, please? We're going to give away this beautiful line of fabric that I am sewing with today. And it is called Bunnies and Cream. It's perfect for baby quilts. Definitely a bit more of a traditional baby quilt. It's pastels and ginghams. All right, we're almost there. Having trouble sewing and talking today. That's okay. We can't always do it all, right? Maybe I forgot my superhero cape at home today. It's laundry day. All right, we're coming up to the end now. Oh, I got my tongue stuck out just right. Do any of you need to stick your tongue out to do stuff just right? There we go. Pardon me? What else? Oh, yes, this pattern can be downloaded. You're going to visit us at sparrowquiltco.com, and there is a picture of me with this quilt on the front page there. Just click that, and that'll take you to the next page. Put in your email address, and you'll get an email reply with the pattern attached. All right, so I'm going to get busy sewing some strips together over the weekend, and then on Monday we can get to sewing the borders onto these blocks. Like I told you guys, this one is super simple. I try to keep it simple so that it stays kind of fun and an easy attainable goal. And hopefully these patterns can be followed by any skill level. I don't want anything to be out of reach for people. Although I do hope to offer more tutorials down the road that expand your skills and teach you new things, but we're just starting out simple to get things going. So Stash Busters series, we are here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Sometimes we are a little bit late. Mornings get hectic when you have a big family and you're running your own business. So just bear with us and hang in there. We do always try to aim for 10:30 a.m. and that is here on the Facebook page. If you don't like our Facebook page, please do. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're just ever so grateful for all our followers, and then you won't miss out on any of the fun. And that way you also won't miss out on any of the giveaways.
Just got a couple questions before we announce the winner.
Sure.
When you were sewing and you sew strips opposite directions, it makes it stay straight.
Yes, that's right. So when you're sewing strips together, if you sew them all in the same direction, you'll notice they start to kind of sway off or maybe become hourglass shaped. So if you alternate the direction of your sewing, that is what helps keep them nice and square.
You use flannel as backing. Would you still use backing?
I always use batting, no matter what my backing is. There's not enough depth in the quilt sandwich to balance your stitch properly if you don't have a thick enough quilt sandwich. Sometimes quilters will come in, just because we long arm so much. I've seen every possible scenario. I honestly feel like I have. So I've seen, a minky backing with just a quilt top and no batting in the middle. And what ends up happening is the pile of the minky will sneak up through the needle holes and you'll see the minky showing on the top. It's not quite thick enough to leave that minky down where it's supposed to be. So I always use batting. That's my personal preference, but you can do whatever you want. You just have to know what the side effects of that may be.
Laura wants to know, did I miss the tour of the shop?
We've not done the tour of the shop yet, Laura. I was thinking of doing that this afternoon.
Winner is Beth Marcus.
Pardon?
Winner is Beth Marcus.
Beth Marcus! Yay! Beth, you're the winner. So, Beth, please send us a private message. Include your mailing address and your email address and your phone number, and we will get this order into the system for you and get that out to you. Congratulations, Beth. Your hanging in there and watching has finally paid off. Congratulations. All right, you all heard that. I'm hoping to do a video tour of the shop a little bit later this afternoon. Oh, it's a bit of a disaster at the moment, so I got to do some cleaning up after lunch. And we're also going to film the quilt block studio for this block this afternoon. So then you can find that on YouTube. If you'd rather just have the short and sweet version of this block, it'll be up on YouTube probably tomorrow. Well, my darlings, happy Friday to you all. I look forward to seeing you again on Monday, perhaps this afternoon as well. And don't forget that we talked about doing a fabric auction. That'll probably be next Friday. Like I said, we're clearing fabric out. We got to move and we can't take it all with us. So hopefully next Friday afternoon, we'll be doing that fabric auction and having some fun clearing out some fabrics, which will hopefully result in some really great deals for all of you. All right. Congratulations again, Beth. Join us again on Monday at 10:30 or this afternoon to see a tour of the shop. Bye for now, guys. Have a great weekend.